The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going on for 6 hours. Representatives from 47 different species sat in the massive chamber, their voices rising in panic as holographic displays showed the approaching Crithian fleet. Captain Rex Morgan stood at the back of the room, the only human present. His simple blue uniform looked plain compared to the elaborate robes and armor worn by the other delegates. At 32 years old, Rex had served in the Terran Defense Force for 12 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The main display showed a fleet of over 2,000 ships moving toward the Council homeworld. Each vessel was massive, bristling with weapons that could destroy entire cities. At the center of the formation was the flagship Crimson Blade, home to the most feared warrior in the galaxy. Warlord Vextal has conquered 12 systems in the past 2 years, announced Chancellor Torin, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. Her demands are simple: surrender all military forces to her command, or she will destroy every world in Council space. A representative from the Zenith Empire, a species that looked like walking crystals, spoke up. Our combined fleets cannot match her numbers. The Crithians have superior technology and centuries of combat experience. What about negotiation? Asked Ambassador Yell from the Aquatic Worlds. Perhaps we can offer her something other than total surrender. Chancellor Torin shook his head. Crithians do not negotiate. They respect only strength. Since no one has ever defeated Vextal in combat, she believes herself unstoppable. Rex stepped forward. What about their laws? Every species has customs that bind them. The room fell silent. Many delegates had never heard a human speak in the council chambers before. Earth was still considered a minor world, barely a century into space travel. Chancellor Torin looked at Rex with curiosity. Captain Morgan, what do you know of Crithian law? I studied their culture during the border conflicts 5 years ago, Rex replied. They follow ancient warrior codes. If someone challenges their leader to single combat and wins, that person becomes the new leader of their entire military. A delegate from the Mechanical Collective, a robot species, processed this information quickly. The probability of any individual defeating Warlord Vextal in single combat is approximately 0.003%. She stands 9 feet tall, added the Zenith representative. Her natural armor can deflect plasma bolts. She has fought in over 300 battles and never lost. Rex walked to the center of the chamber. I want to issue the challenge. The room erupted in shocked voices. Several delegates spoke at once, their translations overlapping through the chamber's systems. A human cannot possibly. This is madness. We should consider all options. Chancellor Torin raised all 4 hands for silence. Captain Morgan, I respect your courage, but this would be suicide. Humans are not known for physical combat prowess. Rex remained calm. We're not known for a lot of things until we do them. 3 years ago, everyone said humans couldn't navigate the void storms. Last year, they said we couldn't survive on plasma worlds. We keep proving people wrong. This is different, said the aquatic delegate. This is about raw combat ability. No, Rex replied. It's about understanding your enemy and finding a way to win. That's what humans do best. Chancellor Torin considered this. The Crithian fleet would arrive in 18 hours. Traditional military response had been ruled out. Surrender meant slavery for billions of beings across dozens of worlds. The Council will consider your proposal, Torin announced. We will reconvene in 1 hour. Rex left the chamber and went to the communications center. He needed to send a message to Earth to his commanding officer and to his family. There was a good chance he would not survive the next day. Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on the screen from Earth Command. She had been Rex's mentor for the past 5 years, the one who had recommended him for the Council liaison position. Rex, I heard about the situation, she said. Are you really planning to challenge this warlord? It's the only option that doesn't end with surrender, he replied. Someone has to try. The Crithians are not like other species we've fought. They're born warriors. Their entire culture revolves around combat. Rex nodded. I know, but they're also bound by their traditions. If I can beat their leader, their whole fleet will follow whoever defeated her. Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. What do you need from us? Just standard equipment. Nothing fancy. And tell my parents I love them. Rex, you don't have to do this. Let the Council find another way. There is no other way, Rex said. This is what humans do. When everyone else gives up, we find a way forward. The communication ended. Rex went to prepare for what might be his final day. When the council reconvened, the vote was unanimous. They would accept Rex's challenge and transmit it to the Crythian fleet. Within hours, they received a response. Warlord Vextal had accepted the challenge. The combat would take place on asteroid Gamma 7, a neutral location between the fleet and the council world. The rules would follow traditional Crythian combat law. Each fighter could bring personal weapons and armor. The battle would continue until one fighter yielded or died. Rex spent the night studying everything available about Crythian combat techniques. Their warriors favored overwhelming force and direct assault. They considered tactics like hiding or retreating to be dishonorable. Victory came through superior strength and skill, nothing else. The next morning, Rex boarded a small transport ship with representatives from several council species who would witness the combat. The asteroid was barely 5 miles wide, its surface covered with rocky outcrops and deep craters. As they approached, Rex could see another transport arriving from the Crythian fleet. The enemy ship was twice the size of theirs. Black metal covered with red markings that indicated military victories. Both ships landed on opposite sides of a flat area that would serve as the fighting ground. Rex checked his equipment one final time. He wore standard human military armor, lightweight but strong. His weapons were simple, a projectile rifle that fired metal bullets, a sidearm, and a combat knife. Nothing exotic or high-tech. He stepped out of the transport and walked toward the center of the designated area. From the other side, Warlord Vextal emerged from her ship. Rex had seen images of her before, but seeing her in person was different. She stood nearly 9 feet tall, her body covered in natural armor plating that looked like dark metal. Her species had evolved as predators, and it showed in every line of her form. She carried a massive energy rifle that glowed with contained power, and a sword that seemed to be made of crystallized plasma. The witnesses from both sides took positions on elevated ground around the combat area. A senior Crythian officer stepped forward to announce the rules. "This is single combat according to the ancient laws," the officer declared. "The winner becomes supreme commander of all Crythian military forces. Combat begins when both fighters acknowledge readiness." Vextal raised her rifle. "I am ready." Rex checked his weapon and nodded. "Ready?" The officer stepped back. "Begin!" Vextal immediately fired her energy weapon. The blast vaporized a boulder where Rex had been standing, but he was already moving, diving behind another rock formation. The energy rifle charged up for another shot, its whining sound echoing across the asteroid. Rex counted the seconds. 4 seconds to charge, then the blast. He had to use that timing. Another energy bolt destroyed his cover, sending rock fragments flying. Rex rolled to the left, came up behind a different boulder, and fired 3 quick shots from his rifle. The metal bullet struck Vextal's armor and bounced off harmlessly, but they made her turn in his direction. She charged toward his position, firing as she moved. Rex realized that her strategy was simple. Use overwhelming firepower to destroy his cover, then close for melee combat where her size and strength would dominate. But Rex had no intention of fighting her way. He used the asteroid's low gravity to his advantage, jumping between rock formations in ways that would be impossible on a normal world. Each time Vextal fired, he was somewhere else. The energy blasts carved chunks out of the landscape but never found their target. After 10 minutes of this, Rex noticed something important. The energy rifle's power cell was starting to dim. Each shot was taking longer to charge, and the blasts were slightly weaker. Vextal noticed too. She switched tactics, using her rifle more carefully while trying to corner Rex in an area where she could reach him with her sword. Rex led her deeper into the asteroid's rocky terrain, where the larger rocks created a maze of passages and hiding spots. Here her size worked against her. She had to move more slowly through the narrow spaces while Rex could slip through gaps she couldn't follow. But he wasn't just running. Every time she exposed herself to follow him, he took precise shots at specific points on her armor. The metal bullets couldn't penetrate, but they were causing microfractures in the power cells that fed her equipment. 20 minutes into the fight, Vextal's energy rifle finally died. The power cell had been drained by constant firing and damaged by Rex's targeted shots. She threw it aside and drew her plasma sword. "Enough running, human," she called out. "Face me with honor." Rex emerged from behind a boulder, his rifle ready. "Honor is winning the fight and protecting your people. Everything else is just ego." She charged him with a warrior's cry, her sword leaving a trail of superheated air. Rex fired his remaining bullets at her legs, trying to slow her down, but her armor held. When his rifle clicked empty, Rex dropped it and drew his sidearm. Vextal swung her sword in a wide arc that would have cut him in half, but Rex jumped backward, using the low gravity to carry him further than she expected. The plasma sword carved through the air where he had been. Rex fired his sidearm, aiming for the joints in her armor where the plates met. The bullets sparked off the metal but didn't penetrate. Vextal pressed her attack, moving faster than something her size should be able to move. Her swordwork was precise and deadly, each strike designed to end the fight instantly. Rex had to use every bit of his training and reflexes to stay alive, but he was learning her patterns. The Crithian fighting style was powerful but predictable. Each attack followed traditional forms that had been used for centuries. There was honor in following the ancient ways, but it also meant her moves could be anticipated. Rex emptied his sidearm into her armor's joint points, then threw the weapon aside and drew his combat knife. Vextal smiled, showing teeth designed for tearing flesh. "Now you fight like a warrior," she said. "No," Rex replied. "I fight like a human." Instead of meeting her charge head-on, Rex used the terrain to his advantage. He led her up a slope of loose rocks, then jumped aside as she swung her sword. The plasma blade struck the rocks and caused a small avalanche that knocked her off balance. Rex pressed his attack while she was recovering, striking at the damaged power cell connections in her armor. His knife couldn't cut through Crithian armor, but it could work into the cracks his bullets had made. Vextal roared and swung her sword in a desperate attempt to catch him, but Rex was already moving. He grabbed a loose rock and threw it at her head, not to hurt her but to distract her for the split second he needed. His knife found the main power coupling for her sword. Sparks flew as the connection severed, and the plasma blade flickered out. Now they were fighting with simple weapons. Vextal still had her natural advantages of size and strength, but Rex had speed and the tactical thinking that humans were known for. The knife fight was brutal. Vextal's claws could tear through metal, and her reach was much longer than Rex's. But Rex fought smart, using everything in the environment as a weapon. He threw rocks to distract her, used the uneven ground to make her stumble, and struck only when he had a clear advantage. The fight lasted another 10 minutes. Both fighters were bleeding, both exhausted from the low oxygen atmosphere of the asteroid. Vextal's armor was cracked in multiple places, its power systems failing. Rex's lighter armor had been shredded, and he was running on pure determination. The end came when Vextal tried a final desperate attack. She jumped high into the low gravity, planning to come down on Rex with her full weight and claws extended. It was a powerful move that would have crushed any opponent who tried to block it. Rex didn't try to block. He rolled aside and struck upward with his knife, finding the one weak point he had been targeting throughout the fight, the power coupling that controlled her armor's artificial strength enhancement. Sparks flew as the coupling severed. Vextal crashed to the ground, her armor now nothing more than dead weight. She tried to rise, but without the power assistance, the armor was too heavy to move effectively. Rex stood over her, his knife at her throat. "Yield." Vextal looked up at him with something that might have been respect. "I yield, human." "You have won." The witnesses from both sides stared in shocked silence. Rex helped Vextal to her feet, supporting her weight as she struggled with the dead armor. "According to Crithian law," announced the senior officer, "Captain Rex Morgan is now Supreme Commander of all Crithian military forces." Rex looked out at the massive fleet surrounding the asteroid. 2,000 ships with crews totaling over 1,000,000 warriors now followed his orders. It was a responsibility he had never imagined. "What are your orders, Commander?" asked the Crithian officer. Rex thought carefully. "First, medical attention for Warlord Vextal. She fought with honor and deserves respect. Second, I want to meet with the senior staff to discuss our new mission." "What mission?" the officer asked. "Protection instead of conquest," Rex replied. "The galaxy has enough destroyers. It needs defenders." The journey back to the Crithian flagship took 2 hours. Rex rode in Vextal's transport, helping the medical crew treat her injuries. She watched him with curious eyes. "Why did you spare me?" she asked. "It would have been easier to kill me." "Killing you wouldn't have solved anything," Rex replied. "I need experienced officers to help rebuild your military into something better." "Rebuild it how?" "Into a force that protects instead of conquers. The galaxy is full of threats that require military response, but they don't require slavery and destruction. Vextal was quiet for a long moment. You think like a strange warrior, human. I think like a human, Rex corrected. We see possibilities instead of just problems. When they reached the flagship, Rex was amazed by its size. The ship was over 2 miles long, with corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The crew quarters could house 50,000 warriors, and the weapon systems could destroy entire fleets. He was brought to the command center, where the senior staff waited. 3 figures stood at attention as he entered, and Rex realized they were Vextal's daughters. The eldest introduced herself as Commander Zara. She was nearly as tall as her mother, with the same natural armor and predatory grace. I commanded the assault fleets for the conquest of the Outer Rim, she said. The middle daughter was Captain Nina. She looked slightly younger but carried herself with the same warrior confidence. I developed the boarding tactics used in the siege of Fortress Prime, she announced. The youngest was Lieutenant Sarah. She seemed to be in her early 20s by human standards, though with Crithians it was hard to tell. I revolutionized our fighter wing formations, she said proudly. Rex nodded respectfully to each of them. I've read about your tactical innovations. They're impressive. Commander Zara stepped forward. According to our laws, you now have the right to claim us as wives. Our bloodline must continue through the strongest warrior. Rex nearly choked. I'm sorry, what? Crithian tradition, explained Captain Nina. When a warrior defeats our supreme leader, they gain the right to marry that leader's daughters. It ensures the strongest genes pass to the next generation. Lieutenant Sarah added, We are all accomplished warriors in our own right. You would be gaining powerful allies as well as wives. Rex looked around the command center, where dozens of Crithian officers were watching this conversation with great interest. He realized that how he handled this moment would determine whether he could successfully lead these people. I understand the tradition, Rex said carefully, but in human culture, marriage is based on choice and affection, not conquest. You refuse us? Asked Commander Zara, her hand moving to her weapon. I refuse to claim you as property, Rex clarified, but I would be honored to work with you as partners in rebuilding your military forces. If friendship and respect grow into something more, that would be your choice to make. The 3 sisters exchanged glances. This was clearly not how such situations usually went. You would treat us as equals? Asked Captain Nina. I would treat you as the experienced officers you are, Rex replied. I need your help to transform this fleet into something the galaxy can respect instead of fear. Lieutenant Sarah smiled slightly. This could be interesting. Over the following days, Rex worked with the senior staff to reorganize the Crithian military. Instead of conquest fleets, they became rapid response forces for threats to galactic peace. Pirates, slavers, and hostile aliens found themselves facing warriors who fought for protection rather than plunder. The change wasn't easy. Many Crithian officers struggled with the new mission. They had been raised to believe that strength meant domination. Rex had to prove that strength could also mean protection and leadership. He did this by example. When a distress call came from a mining colony under attack by raiders, Rex led the response personally. He didn't stay safely on the flagship but flew a fighter alongside the pilots, sharing the same risks they faced. When they rescued captured civilians, Rex insisted they be treated with respect and given medical care. When they captured raiders, he demanded fair trials instead of summary execution. Slowly, the Crithian warriors began to understand their new purpose. They were still warriors, still the strongest military force in the galaxy, but now they fought to protect the weak instead of conquering them. Commander Zara proved to be an excellent strategic planner. Her experience conquering systems helped her understand how to defend them. She reorganized the fleet's deployment to provide rapid response to any threat in Council space. Captain Nina's boarding expertise became valuable for rescue operations. Her teams could infiltrate damaged ships or hostile stations to save civilians that conventional forces couldn't reach. Lieutenant Sarah's fighter innovations made their squadrons unbeatable in space combat. Pirates and raiders who had operated with impunity for years found themselves outmatched by pilots who fought with honor and precision. As the months passed, Rex found himself growing closer to all 3 sisters. They worked together daily, planning operations and training new tactics. Their professional relationships gradually became personal friendships. Commander Zara was the most serious of the 3, dedicated to her duties and suspicious of change. but Rex's consistent fairness and competence earned her respect. She began to see that human leadership might actually improve Crithian society. Captain Nina was more outgoing, curious about human culture, and eager to learn new approaches to combat. She spent hours with Rex discussing the differences between their species and how those differences could be strengths rather than barriers. Lieutenant Sarah was the most adaptable, quickly embracing the new mission and finding ways to improve their effectiveness. She had grown up hearing stories of her mother's conquests, but discovered she preferred the satisfaction of protecting people to the glory of defeating them. 6 months after the challenge, the Crithian fleet had become the most respected peacekeeping force in the galaxy. Other species that had once feared them now requested their assistance. The transformation was so complete that the Galactic Council officially recognized them as the primary military defenders of civilized space. Rex stood on the bridge of the Crimson Blade, watching as their ships responded to reports of slavers in the Vega system. Commander Zara handled fleet coordination, Captain Nina prepared boarding teams, and Lieutenant Sarah led the fighter squadrons. "You know," said Commander Zara as she worked at her station, "our traditions may have been right about marriage for the wrong reasons." Rex looked at her curiously. "What do you mean?" "The law says we should marry the strongest warrior," she explained. "We always thought that meant physical strength. But watching you lead, I think we misunderstood what strength really means." Captain Nina looked up from her tactical display. "Strength is making difficult decisions and standing by them. Strength is putting the needs of others before your own glory." Lieutenant Sarah smiled as she reviewed fighter assignments. "Strength is changing the galaxy for the better instead of just conquering it." Rex felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Commander Zara turned to face him directly. "I'm saying that if you still want to honor Crithian tradition regarding marriage, we would not object. But only if you want to," added Captain Nina. "As you said, marriage should be based on choice and affection." Lieutenant Sarah grinned. "And we choose you, Rex Morgan, not because you defeated our mother, but because you showed us how to be better than we were." Rex looked at the 3 remarkable women who had become his closest friends and most trusted advisors. In the past 6 months, they had shared dangers, victories, and the satisfaction of building something greater than any of them could have achieved alone. "I would be honored," he said simply. The wedding ceremony took place on the flagship, with representatives from dozens of species attending. It was a blend of human and Crithian traditions, symbolizing the unity that had transformed a conquering fleet into a force for peace. Vextal, fully recovered from her injuries and now serving as an advisor to the new leadership, performed the traditional Crithian portions of the ceremony. "You have proven that true strength lies not in conquering enemies, but in turning them into allies," she said to Rex. Admiral Chen attended via video link from Earth, representing the human military. "You've shown the galaxy what humanity can achieve," she told Rex. "Not through superior firepower, but through superior character." As the ceremony concluded, Rex stood with his 3 wives on the bridge of their flagship. Outside the windows, their fleet moved in perfect formation toward their next mission, rescuing colonists from a natural disaster in the Centauri system. "Any regrets?" asked Commander Zara. Rex looked at the woman who had become his strategic partner, then at Captain Nina, who handled their most dangerous missions, and finally at Lieutenant Sarah, who brought joy and innovation to everything she touched. "Only one," he replied. "What's that?" asked Captain Nina. Rex smiled. "I regret that it took a war to bring us together." "We could have been doing this all along." Lieutenant Sarah laughed. "Better late than never. Besides, now we have forever to make up for lost time." As their ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying them toward their next mission of protection and rescue, Rex reflected on how much had changed. A year ago, he had been just another human officer in a galaxy that barely noticed his species. Now he commanded the most powerful military force in known space, married to 3 remarkable women who had helped him transform warfare itself. But the most important change wasn't in their ships or tactics or political position. The most important change was in how they saw themselves and each other. They had learned that strength shared was stronger than strength hoarded, that protection was more satisfying than conquest, and that the best victories were the ones where everyone won. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers. Pirates still threatened trade routes, hostile aliens still invaded peaceful worlds, and natural disasters still required rapid response. But now there was a force ready to meet those challenges, led by a human who had proven that sometimes the greatest weapon was the willingness to see enemies as potential friends. As they emerged from hyperspace near the disaster zone, Rex took his place at the command station surrounded by his wives and the crew that had become his family. They had work to do, people to save, and a galaxy to protect, and they wouldn't have it any other way.